Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Comics episode 25 here today. This is a big one because we hit that 25 is an important episode. And I'm your host, Technique, along with Matt, aka Nighthawk Plays. The reason why this is really important is because our two guests here are some of the biggest in the industry. Welcome, Will and Charles. How are you doing today? And please introduce each one of yourselves. You know when to go first? Go for it.
You, sir. After you, Charles.
All right. My name is Charles Soule. I am a writer of many things. People might know me from my collaborations with Will, in particular, a book that we did for Star Wars called The Rise of Kylo Ren, which introduced that character's backstory and told some really cool things about him. Introduced this character, Ren, who's starting to make kind of a splash out in the world, which is very exciting. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. I've done a lot of work for Star Wars, also have written a bunch of novels, done a bunch of work for Marvel and DC Comics, have a lot of my own indie comics. #1 New York Times bestselling author for my last book. Very exciting.
Let's go. Congratulations.
And, just I'm constantly telling stories, which is exciting. And I particularly like the ones I tell with Will. So it's nice that we get to talk about it here today. Over to you, Will.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Will. I also do a bunch of Star Wars stuff and, of course, worked on The Rise of Kylo Ren with Charles, which was awesome because Charles and I have known each other for a long time, but it was great to get to work with him, and it's why it's led on to this book, which is Hell to Pay, which we'll also talk about more. I've been doing, I guess, I actually know this because I started working on Star Wars pretty much the week my son was born. So I've about 3.5 years worth of Star Wars. Before that, I did about 5 years of Spider-Man for Marvel. But also in the last year, I've done a lot of TV stuff as well. I've got 2 shows, one on Sky TV called Draw with Will, where I kind of teach people how to draw famous cartoon characters, like actually Michelangelo from in the background there. I stole him from the set of the show. And I've had a recent show that's just come out called Storytellers, which is an episodic how to draw show where the characters all kind of come to life and stuff, which is awesome. So cool. But always, first and foremost for me, is comics and storytelling through comics, which is what I absolutely love doing. So we are well in the throes of putting together this image book together.
Mm-hmm. I should say, Will, I think you're underselling the TV part of stuff. Will has become like a bona fide Irish English TV star over the last. It's very much something that's just the coolest thing, and it's been really cool to watch and see it happen. So yeah, yes, people have how to draw, but people have started figuring out whenever I'm filming something because my hair there goes, the gray disappears, and it's been freshly dyed by the hair and makeup team. So so people know when I'm secretly gone off filming for stuff. So.
You know, it's quite interesting because when we talked about it before, you're just so casual about it. You're like, hey, I'm doing a couple of shows, and I'm like, you're doing a couple?
None of it actually felt real because it was all kind of organized during the pandemic, and all of these big meetings and everything were all done over Zoom. And I literally got the phone call going, congratulations, your signature show has been greenlit and it's going to be seen by millions of people. So the Zoom call ended and I was like, well, everything is locked down. So I guess I'll celebrate by having another cup of tea in the kitchen or something until I eventually arrived on the set. And I was like, why does everybody know my... Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So here we go.
That's the type of person I am. If it's not until I sign that contract and I know it's completely locked in, I don't get that big excitement because you never know, especially in show business. You know, something could be all greenlit and next thing you know, you take it down. If it's the hour before, I've had that happen before. That's wild.
Yeah.
All right. Absolutely. Well, Matt, you want to start us off? And I can talk a brick in a brick wall. So
yeah. So obviously, good afternoon to you, gentlemen. Thank you very much, or good evening to you. Thank you for hanging out with us here today. Obviously, you've been on a plethora of things, whether it's Star Wars, Marvel, obviously Image Now, your own things. Where did you get your start? Is kind of like the first question, and when did you know this was it for me to do what you're doing today, whether it's artists, whether it's writing, or just being in the industry? I know it's a 2-part question, but yeah.
No, it's fine. I was just letting them know this is for both of you.
This is for both of you, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. Charles.
I went first last time. Well, why don't you go first this time?
Sugar. I was banking on you going first. Okay. So I got my start. I feel like it was climbing a ladder through comics. I certainly flew over, like I took out a loan after finishing college in Ireland with my portfolio under my arm, assuming I was going to get hired immediately to work on Spider-Man and Star Wars and all this kind of stuff. And I remember going into the DC Comics portfolio review with people who I now all know well, who are up on the stage, presenting to a couple of thousand people inside in a convention building that's full of 100,000 people, with everyone having desires to do stuff in the industry, because that's one of the things about comics is everyone loves to be a part of it all as well, So, and I quickly found out inside in that room, I remember looking at the person's art to my right, and I was like, oh crap, their stuff is better than mine. So maybe I'm the second best person in this room. When I looked to the left, I was like, oh, I had no frame of reference. I didn't know anyone else that worked in comics. I have a lot to learn. So basically I went I learned quickly then. I learned the whole world of, Artist Alley, where you could show your portfolio around and people will give you advice like that. And thankfully I was kind of adopted, left in to join a group of, I guess DC Comics people that worked that had a kind of surrounding group, which also was right at the time when I met Charles back at that time, through the same kind of group of people, where even though I wasn't necessarily in the industry, I just got to hang out with these people and become friends and start to learn little bits, bit by bit. And I kind of would fly over to the States, take out loans, whatever I could do to get over there with portfolios, while slowly kind of, starting to work on a small press book in Ireland, which led to a small press book in England. And my big break into the American market was working on a book, which was based on a show called Farscape, actually, for a company called Boom Studios. And I've always had a lot of luck in my career. In all of the breaks that I've gone into, it's always been really long runs. So I think I did 25 issues of Farscape, which for when you're new to the industry and learning, it was basically a few years worth of consistent work, and I could improve and obviously work as hard as I could on that book as well. And basically by the time I finished that book, I was ready to be picked up by Marvel, and I kind of had been there ever since. And I've already lost track of both of the questions. What was the second question again?
When did you know this is it? I'm here and I'm here to stay.
Oh God, no! I don't think anyone in comics ever kind of fully feels that way.
Okay. I think you're there now.
I've had a couple of nice moments, for sure. Getting my first American job was amazing. Getting my first, the first time you hold a published comic, you literally smell the thing. It's just this desired thing, and all of a sudden, I actually had walked into a shop to buy it. It was just a lovely experience. And then getting picked up to work on Spider-Man and being given my own Spidey title, and then the same for Star Wars. So each one of those is its own kind of moment of, a thing that is stuff that, I always compare it to if you told this to 12-year-old Will, it would just absolutely blow your mind. So whenever you do something that does that, those for me are one of those moments. So
awesome.
Charles,
you got a big thing to follow up there.
I think I got it in me, but I will say I got my booster shot yesterday, my COVID booster, and so which I'm very happy about. But I'm a little foggy today.
Okay, I got you.
So if I zone out, go on a weird tangent, start talking about I don't know, something out of the blue, that's all it is. So my origin story. Before we even get into it, I see that a link was dropped in the chat on the Twitch. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to explain what that is so that people can kind of check in on it as we talk, if they want to. So Will and I are doing a new series that's coming out next year, probably around April, May, something like that, for Image Comics. It is a series called Hell to Pay. It is a sort of a supernatural adventure. It's kind of like Indiana Jones meets Hellboy, and it's very, very very, very exciting stuff. There's some art that Will's been doing for it. Our colorist is Rochelle Rosenberg. Our letterist, God, that's what I'm talking about. As a booster head. The letterer is Chris Crank. So the story is, it's a very cool, kind of half treasure hunt, half scary supernatural adventure thing. And this series is going to drop next year, but we wanted to do something special for our fans. And people who are just interested in checking it out. So we're doing a special limited edition, very exclusive. You won't be able to get it in stores, cover of issue 1. So it's a version of issue 1 that has its own unique that cover, that beautiful cover.
I love that.
The story sort of revolves around these sort of cursed coins out of hell that make their way into Earth, and you can use them to hire demons. And then this couple here, Sebastian and Maya, and they work for this super cool organization called the Shrouded College, and it's their job to try and collect the 666 coins that have made their way to Earth. So it's very thrilling, very cool, lots of like creepy magic stuff. But so we have this special version of it that's available just for our fans. And if you click on that link, you can buy it there. You can also get signed versions of it, signed by the whole team, and you can get special sketches and that are sketched by Will and dialogued by me. So if you want to support,
what are you doing right now?
This book is completely self-funded by us. Yeah, that's a Sebastian, right? So this book is funded by us, and so every bit helps. It's basically like an indie movie that we're making, but it's a comic book. So if that's interesting to you, jump on that link, check it out, and we'll get you the book when it's good to go. So that's Hell to Pay, but my origin story. Do you still want to hear my origin story?
Yeah,
or did I
absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So I started in comics by going to law school and becoming an attorney, which is maybe not the typical path, but what it did for me is it underscored how much I did not want to be an attorney. I graduated from law school, and when you graduate from law school, you take the bar exam, which is this big, huge, crazy test, and you hopefully pass it, and then you can start practicing law in whatever state you're in. And I took that test, and I walked out, and I had been studying my ass off for like 3 months, and I was going to take a couple weeks just to have a vacation. And like the first day of that vacation, I went to like a stationery store where I was and bought myself some notebooks and started writing my first novel in longhand on that trip, because I was so sure that I needed a path that was going to let me have a creative life as opposed to a life in the legal profession, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. This is not disparaging attorneys. I still am one. It's a great thing. It's a great livelihood. It's a great life. You can help a lot of people. But for me, just the way that my frequency vibrates, it was very much, I wanted to be a creative person. I've wanted that since I was very young. You can see in the background, there's some music stuff there.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of creative stuff my entire life. And so I started, this is a while ago now, but I started writing my first novel right after law school, got an agent, took it out, but it took years. It took like 3 years before that book was ready to go out. And when it went out, I see the question, could I help someone in court? Then yes, I could help someone in court. But I'm not very busy.
Wait, I don't want to know what the next question is, please.
Probably my rates are too high too. Yeah. So I wrote this first novel, and then, I spent years on it because I was doing it alongside practicing law as a first and second and third year attorney at the law firm, which is when you're working like 80 hours a week. So grinding out a book at the same time was almost impossible, but I did it. And I sent it to my agent, which was hard to get an agent. And then my agent was like, okay, in 6 weeks, we're gonna send this thing out today to all these publishers, and in 6 weeks, you'll know what offers come back. And then we'll make some decisions about who we want to go with and who we want, the best offer, hopefully get an auction going on. I'm like, okay. And I'm starting to make plans for my new life as basically, Stephen King or whatever I thought I was going to be, John Grisham. And 6 weeks pass, and my agent comes back and he's like, okay, nobody wanted it. Nobody bought it. And I was like, okay, so what do we do with it now? Because the idea that it was over with that book was impossible to, I could not process, because I'd spent 3 years on this thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that's just really not the way it works. The way it works is you write a new one. And I started that. I started writing a new book. But at the same time, I'm like, man, 3 years, that is a crazy amount of time to spend on a creative project that doesn't go anywhere. And so I started looking at other creative mediums I love. Music is one, but I couldn't really go play bar gigs and get a band going while I was being an attorney. So I looked at comics, and comics have an ability, the way gatekeeping works in comics is very different. It is kind of like indie bands, if you can get yourself a show, and the word starts to spread about the songs you're singing, the music you're doing, or the comic book you're making, the super indie book, then you start to get a reputation for doing good work. And eventually, there are scouts out there, they'll find you, they'll pick you up. So I started exploring that path around, let's say 2004, 2005. And I got my first indie book out in 2009, which was published by SLG, a book called Strongman. And this is right around the time I was connecting with Will. And then from there, I just put out a few more indie books. DC came calling, put me on the book Swamp Thing. And then, the easiest way to get a job at Marvel is to get a job at DC, which is what happened.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Right. So Marvel reached out and they put me in a book called Thunderbolts. And then it started to be like ping pong back and forth because I get to put on a new book at DC. So then I get to put on a new book at Marvel. Yeah. And at the height of that, I was on 4 books for each. So I was on 4 books at Marvel and 4 books at DC, 8 books a month, which while still practicing law. By this time I had my own practice, so I could kind of manage my time a little bit, but I have never felt anything like that before or since. It was so intense. But eventually I signed exclusive with Marvel, started working at them. This is 2014. I did it with Death of Wolverine, which was a big book for me.
Awesome series.
My first really big book.
Yes.
And then from there, just started doing projects and trying to build my career. I did indie stuff, got back into writing novels, as I said, got into Star Wars in 2015 with my Lando book, which started building kind of a mountain of Star Wars material, I'm about to write my 100th Star Wars comic script.
What? That's awesome.
Oh,
congratulations.
Yeah, and it's like nobody else has done that. Like nobody else has come close. The closest, I think, Kieran Gillen with like 74 scripts.
Oh, okay.
So it's a kind of a weird record, but it's pretty cool.
That's great.
So yeah, and then I got to be part of this High Republic thing. I did Rise of Kylo Ren with Will. I'm doing the Star Wars flagship series now, just tons of stuff. So yeah, I mean that's the origin story, I suppose.
Living the dream. How wonderful to start off with one thing being looked at as a quote unquote failure, but as I've always told people, as creators, failures are the building blocks to success. So Charles, this will be for you, and then I'll hit Will with a question. You've written a lot, and I mean, handling 8 books a month, I don't even, do you see in your future writing scripts for movies, or do you want to get involved with any silver screen creations?
I already have. So I have, right now I have 5 of my creator-owned projects that are currently in development at various stages. Wow. So both of my novels, which are both of my ones that I own. So Light of the Jedi is a Star Wars book, obviously, but The Oracle, which is my first novel. Looks like somebody.
No, that's awesome. I love it.
I mean, someone bought Hell to Pay.
Thank you. Awesome job. Awesome job.
Let's go.
Thanks.
So both The Oracle Year and Anyone are in development as TV shows. I wrote the script for the Anyone pilot, and I was involved and gave notes on the one for Oracle Year, which is super exciting. And then I have 3 comic projects that are all in development too. So that's Letter 44, which is sort of a science fiction thing I did, that is moving along very well. That has some real, I don't know, it's very promising, that one. I have Curse Words, which is a book I did with another artist friend of mine, Ryan Brown, that is very exciting. And then there's the book I did with one of your former guests, Scott Snyder, called Undiscovered Country. And that story is currently being adapted for film by New Republic Pictures. Scott and I are writing the screenplay, so we are deep into that. We're into the second draft of the screenplay. It's a huge project. It's a big tentpole kind of thing if it goes. So to answer your question, absolutely. I had that idea a couple years ago, and I've just been digging my way through it since. And Will and I do too. We'll see.
Damn you, Scott, for not saying about that earlier.
I was going to ask Will, but I guess we already know. Will, any creations that you would like to push to the big screen and or TV series? And if so, if you had to choose between each one, which one would you like better, the TV series or the big screen?
Well, I actually have just had my own TV series there. So,
really?
No, well, I'm in a very strange situation with that now, with the stuff where I'm getting to bring stuff to TV, and like the Storytellers show was very much telling a story. It was teaching kids how to draw art and to tell a story, but we got to actually tell a story as well. But so the only comic book project that I'm working on that would ever fit something like this is this with Charles, and it's definitely something that both of us are interested in terms of our love for both cinema and TV and everything like that again. But this stuff is that's a question that if you answered that question 2 years ago, your answer might be totally different now with the way things are coming out now and how things are shown and what's even the best way to tell a story on the screen now. And I genuinely don't know the answer to that, because there's just so many amazing options that are there. Yeah, so that's why I genuinely couldn't pick between the two. Before, I would have loved that whole popcorn experience of, you know, going to the cinema to get to have that side of things. But you know, there's as much going for having something as a series now as well, for sure.
You know, you look at some of the series that are out and the level of the special effects and I'm not even talking like Mandalorian, right? Like I'm talking, you know, like shows like Netflix shows that are phenomenal and great, right? No disparagement of Netflix, but like they are done in a way that feels very cinematic. So there used to be something like, you know, like the Incredible Hulk TV show back in the day, like, you know, you'd see the Hulk and like the big thing was Lou Ferrigno would like try and flip over a little Volkswagen car. And that was like, oh my God, I don't believe it. But now, you know, you could have the Hulk throw an aircraft carrier on the TV show. Like it was, that stuff is all possible. And so I personally, like, I think with Hell to Pay, for example, there's a lot of appeal in the idea of doing it as a TV show, because you can get into a lot of character work and you can get into like let things breathe a little bit. And I also think you can just be in the conversation longer. You know, like a movie would be spectacular. I don't think Will or I would ever turn our nose up at walking into the cinema and like having the popcorn, as you said, and all that stuff. But the you know, if let's say Hell to Pay and Shrouded College and stuff go for like 7 seasons, then you're, you know, it's a cool thing.
You know, it's actually interesting because we talked to Scott a couple of weeks ago, and that was actually something we talked about. It's nowadays, not just with comics being in store or digital now, but when it comes to bringing those stories to life, there's more than one or more than two mediums. It's whether it's TV or movies. Now you have digital. You know, you can access it whenever you want. When I talk about digital, excuse me, like Hulu, Netflix. So there's more room to get your ideas and your stories out there, where just about anything that's created, I feel like, can be turned into something, and that's great to see. And from the images and what we know about, obviously, Hell to Pay, especially, like it'd be awesome. That piece of artwork that you had there before, I mean, it fits perfectly with probably a lot of things that are out there, or a lot of things that can get out there. Excuse me. Speaking of Hell to Pay, we'll stick on that for a minute. Where did this come from? So you've known each other now for about 12 years, give or take. When did this idea of Hell to Pay come along, and how long has it been to get where you are today?
Well, one of the things that's been complicated is that, you remember I mentioned that I had like 8 books a month and all that stuff? And so my schedule has been just crazy. And so finding the project that would actually, like, Will works in a very particular way that's super cool. And so when we were working on, we've been talking about trying to do a creator-owned book for a long time. We almost went with one, and I'm glad we went with this one instead. I think this is better for both of us. But we almost went with a project that was like set in a prison. It was very grim. And I think something was going on in the world that I just like, I mean, maybe the world was going on in the world, but I just didn't feel like it. You know, I didn't want to do a dark story like that. So it just kind of, that sort of died on the vine after Will pestering me for scripts, and I promised him I'd get him to him, and I didn't. You know, it just fell apart. But then this one, I don't know, Will, like how it was like a couple years ago, right? I mean,
do you know what this was? And Charles, like, to his credit, in fairness to him, so this was right when, as well, like, this has been going, like we've been talking about doing something for a while. Like you said, it was bubbling under, especially since like we finally got put together on the Rise of Kylo Ren after knowing each other for so long. We both really enjoyed working on the process. So straight away, it was like, how do we do more? Do we go this way? Do we go that way? Will we do work on our own ones? So we were like, yes, let's do something like that. And it was just kind of put out in the air. And because of the pandemic, a lot of books were paused / cancelled or whatever. And the day mine was, Charles just picked up the phone. So I kind of went from within about 1 hour going, wow, this has never happened to me before. Like the whole world was kind of falling down at this time. There's all this uncertainty about the industry. And the first guy to basically have my back there was Charles. It was literally straight on the phone that day. And it's like, right, that book, we're doing it now. And this is like, so here we go. So there you go.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a great image. I'm looking up here and then it's different over there. But yeah, no, that's a is that a flaming sword? Can you say what it is? Because that is really cool image right there.
I'm gonna drop in a little bit more about this book, about like.
I was gonna ask the question, so go for it.
Can I ask you one really quick question, actually, Charles?
Yeah.
So you know, you're on number 100 of Star Wars. There you go. Hey,
thank you.
You know, you're a musician. You're a musician. You got some art behind you. Are you still in do you still practice law today?
I don't. And
because I was going to say, how do you have time then?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? So the practice area that I worked in was immigration primarily.
Oh, okay.
And when you're dealing with immigration work, you're dealing with people's lives, like heavy duty people's lives. It's not like a business deal where if it gets messed up a little bit, somebody makes a little bit less money. If I messed up that job, people who want to be married can't be together. You know, kids don't get to be with their parents. People don't get the job they've been, you know, all of that stuff. And so when things were really ramping up to that craziness, that 8 books a month stuff, and like the exclusive with Marvel and all that, like I recognized the strain it was putting my legal practice under, and I saw it never happened, but I saw on the horizon a day when I would fuck up, basically, when I would do something drastically bad. And I was like, okay, I need to not do that. And so I planned it in such a way that I basically scaled down the law as I was scaling up writing, so that I could exit gracefully, as opposed to just, because when you have clients, you have a commitment to them, and you have to make sure that you're helping them through the whole situation. So I basically stopped taking new business around 2017, and then just finished the jobs for all my existing clients over the next several years. So I think that might have been 2016, somewhere around there, 2016, 2017, I stopped taking new clients, slowly let my people go, my staff. And then by the end, I want to say beginning of 2018, maybe, I had no more legal work. So now I mostly use it to give advice to people who are in immigration situations, like friends or, you know, professional contacts. And then I also am pretty good at reviewing deals. So I'll sometimes help people with that kind of stuff, and, you know, talk to people about, maybe you should consider this kind of way of doing things. But it's not, I don't have an office anymore or anything like that.
Gotcha. Because like I said, how do you have time? So that makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were going to talk a little bit about more to Hell to Pay, right?
Right.
Yeah. I was. Yeah. And I see there's a question in the chat. How many comics have been drawn of Hell to Pay? We have 3 issues in the can right now. And the only reason we don't have 4 or 5 or 6 is due to this guy right here pointing at myself, because I need to get Will some scripts. But it's, you know, as I've said, Will,
technically
on my list.
It's 4 issues worth of content with the amount of pages that we've in there. They're all oversized issues as well, which is cool. The first one,
nice.
More than 15.
The first one's 30 pages, isn't it?
Whoa! It's 2 comics.
More. The second is 24, and I think the third one's 22, something like that.
Okay, so essentially you have like 4 or 5 comics right there. You know, on a average base. That's
awesome. The thing when you're doing books for Image, is like we're allowed to do that, to fit more kind of story in there. You know what I mean? So, which is awesome. You know, if the book needs more pages, you can put those in there.
Yeah. It's been fun because, you know, we're, as I said, we're funding this ourselves. So again, thank you for anybody who's supporting the book at that link. But it also means that if we want to put 10 extra pages, if we just put that in the budget and we can do it, then we can. And it is really nice to have the flexibility to just stretch it out a little bit. But so the larger premise of this book, beyond just the hell coins, the devil's dollar, is this idea of a concept called the Shrouded College. And the Shrouded College is one of several like supernatural institutions, I guess, that exist around the world. They're all secret, they're all hidden, they're in different countries, and they represent sort of like the, you know, I guess like the MI6 or the CIA or whatever. They're not governmental, they're all kind of independent, but they're the group for that country that handles all the supernatural stuff. And all of those groups have been in a Cold War, basically, for a very long time, and they're all trying to either destroy other supernatural bases of power or absorb them into themselves so that they can get stronger, so that they can eventually, hopefully, defeat the other ones around the world. And so our team here, Sebastian and Maya, they're married. They work for the Shrouded College, which is basically the British one, and they they were sort of snatched out from kind of a dark situation when they were like 18, and they were trained up by the Shrouded College to go after, specifically to go after these coins. And so the name of their team is the fourth target. There's the Shrouded College. Yeah, look at that.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah. I'm so excited.
That's it. If that page is on, that one needs a little bit more. So just a quick teaser.
quick tease.
I actually seen this one being worked on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So they work for the Shrouded College, and they have incurred a debt to the Shrouded College. You could call it student loans, basically. And they have to pay that off by finding these coins. And if they don't, then they don't get to live their lives. The gifts the college has given them will be taken away, and it's all very much part of it. So there are other teams of the Shrouded College doing stuff around the world. There are also agents of the other supernatural organizations around the world that are doing stuff. And so what we're doing with Hell to Pay is just basically telling this first story about this one team, Sebastian and Maya. But what we intend, I love those pages, man. It looks so good.
Wow.
That's beautiful. Oh my God.
These ones haven't been seen before, actually. This one is new for
Exclusive.
World premiere. Yeah, world premiere. That's awesome.
So they go on these, they basically go on these adventures. Other teams go on adventures. There's all this it's this big, gigantic play for a big interconnected world of storytelling that begins with this, but Will and I have big plans for it. So anyway, you asked about the sword, like what's the deal with the sword and all that stuff. So Maya basically is good at spells and potions and things like that. She's like she's not a witch, but she's good at that kind of stuff. Whereas Sebastian is the weapons guy. So what he has is this big collection. He has access to the archives of the Shrouded College, because they have amassed all of these different supernatural weapons from myth. So Cuchulain's, right? Shield, isn't that the one that we use in?
Yeah, in episode 3. Issue 3. Sorry.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's hope so. But yeah, there's that. There's Excalibur. There's the Vorpal blade from Alice in Wonderland. There's all kinds of weapons and cool bits and pieces from folklore that we use, that we bring in, and it can be any mythology, Norse or Middle Eastern or Eastern, whatever.
I love when stories do that, when you take real world artifacts, like you said, and bringing it into your universe. There's something, me personally, about it that I love, and it draws me in even more on that one.
It's cross-referencing too, right? So when I see stuff like that, I want to go look up stuff about it, and then want to see more. It's kind of like that flux with the Supernatural show, when it started off really silly and then they got into like real men and then it's silly again. But I started doing that. So this is awesome. Anyway, continue.
I mean, that's basically the deal. So it's, yes, there's a premise, husband and wife out hunting these hell coins and doing, trying to find them before they destroy the world. But it's part of a much bigger thing. So like, this is, A New Hope, and Star Wars obviously has many other stories to be told in it. And so, we'll see if we do quite as well as Star Wars did, but we're certainly, swinging for the fences with this one.
Well,
there you go. There's some sexy business now.
Spicy. Got the abs out. All right.
I literally wanted to show off the backgrounds. I forgot what was in the foreground.
Yeah, that is.
We were talking with your friend Scott Snyder, and he was like, "This is the best time for creativity and the best time to put things out that's in your head, because unfortunately, I always say unfortunately of the times that we're in right now, people are paying attention more to creation and kind of getting away from all it all." Since we're on Twitch, this place was founded on video games, but it's spread out past that. This whole story sounds awesome. Do you see yourself wanting to ever adapt it to a video game?
Ooh.
It's actually, working on a video game is something that's massively high up on my bucket list, just to see, like one of my favorite things to do is to see the sculpts and the art that video game artists do now that are unbelievable. I think just in the last, I just saw Rafa Grassetti, who's one of the lead concept artists on God of War, posting up a new sculpt of Kratos.
Yeah.
The details that they can do when they work in games is on another level to what we're able to do do in Commix, because we have to draw this stuff every panel all of the time. But if you brought in like all of this world of mythology and all of these weapons, that like if you were sculpting them for a video game, you know, you'd be able to go to town on the details and stuff. And it's just another lens of seeing the story. And I'd love to see what these like top level video game artists would do with some of the designs that we've gotten to do. Like we've had, like Charles and I had a strange thing happen with this character with Ren, because he was adapted into a Lego character for Disney, which was awesome. And like it's another lens of like seeing the story, you know. So whereas, you know,
later.
yeah. So getting to see, you know, your story, like a video game would be another type of storytelling set within this universe. And just like, I love the idea of like having a little bit of it behind the scenes, or even contributing to something like that would just be so much fun. But geez, like talk about an industry that works hard to get something out, like the amount of work that would have to go into starting off a video game franchise from the start is years and years and years of work. So it would be, I don't know if I'd be able to handle the weight to be able to play it, like, you know, so
I try to explain that every day, you know, because games come out in this new generation, I would like to say, of gamers are very supply and demand on demand. You know, it's just like day one of the game has to have no bugs, it has to be perfect, but I'm still going to complain about it, you know? I try to explain to them, like MMOs in general, you have your pilot stage where you have to pitch this idea. That takes like 3 or 4 years to get that. And you got to get a working pilot and something that's a demo. And then you have your development years if you get past that, which is typically around 8 years. And then you have your live service. You know, you have your alphas, your betas. People are doing Kickstarter now. Charles, Kickstarter is a big thing. It's people are getting funded within hours and then overdo their budget, and they bring up new things, and people go, right now is the best time. Have you looked into Kickstarter at all for any of your projects?
Yeah, so I mentioned that book, Curse Words, and that I did with the fabulous and hilarious Ryan Brown, who is a very talented artist in his own right. That's one of my, just as a quick aside, like it is so, like I work with Will, you know, and I work with Ryan, I work with Giuseppe Camancoli, I work with Stephen Niven, I work with like all of these artists who are just geniuses at this very difficult.
There you go.
That's the project.
Kickstarter hacker right
here. So anyway, it's just wonderful to be able to work with these brilliant people who all approach this really strange, interesting, intricate job in their own way. Like the way Camo draws is not the way Will draws, and it's, you know, it's all very fun. But anyway, yeah, Kickstarter. So this is also something that came out of the pandemic because, you know, we were all kind of stuck doing, you know, what are we going to do? And my buddy Ryan was also like sort of, he had a project canceled that he was working on. And so we put our heads together and like, well, what can we do to make sure that I mean, this sounds very magnanimous of me, but I mean, whatever. I was like, what can we do to make sure you have some dough coming in over this, you know, because God knows how long this is going to last.
Yeah,
and so we thought we would kickstart an omnibus, which you just saw, of Curse Words. So the whole series collected into one like 750 page book. It's enormous. And so we did a Kickstarter, and we had a goal that we met like in the first, I don't know, 3 hours, if that. It was super fast. Yep. And then it just went and went and went. And when all was said and done, we had 1,600 backers, and the book, just this one big omnibus collection for a series that was well loved by its fans, but was like, you know, it wasn't The Walking Dead or anything like that.
Right.
Ended up having, I think it ended up being at $142,000 in the Kickstarter.
Wow.
And, you know, we don't keep all that. You know, obviously there's a lot that needs to go into printing the book and shipping it and all those costs. But at the same time, it was a great way to use work that we already had to get out to a new audience or an audience that already loved it and help support the art team that made it. So I think Kickstarter is a spectacular way for fans to support artists very directly. I mean, that's not profound, that's an obvious thing to say, but I'm so glad that it's so robust. You know, it's not just like, oh, you know, send me a tip, right? It's this very highly developed ecosystem that lets people actually get something they are excited about from the creators, while the creators can micromanage it in a lot of ways to maximize their own return too. So I'm a huge fan of that kind of stuff. I think, you know, it's just, yet another way that you can sell your own work to, or provide your own work. It feels so crass, but like get your own work into the hands of people who are excited to have it.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and you know, this Hell to Pay thing we're doing is similar. You know, like the fact that we're doing this cover this way, you know, there are people who really are excited about that kind of thing, a unique, special cover. And you know, I would presume at some point Will and I might do a big Shrouded College, you know, anthology on Kickstarter. You know, who knows?
Awesome.
But
I want my stuff to be printed in something like this. You know, like
Dude, I'd buy it.
Have like an oversized,
That's
you
cool.
know, collected edition that's really, really well done, you know. And that's one of the things then about when you're working with Image Comics, like Charles said, like you're running this thing yourself, you're self-funding it, but that gives you full control then over what format you want to have it in. So,
well, I'm going to say I have an issue, and then everyone on his website has an issue, is we love deluxe, super deluxe, you know, super big, mega, hell to pay version of blah, blah, blah. $150, $200. I'm the guy that spends it because to me, not only does it get to support you, but I love having extra stuff. And I'm a sucker for dirty art. I love it. I love the creation process. The color stuff is nice, but I love the sketches and stuff. So if you ever do any of that, please let me know. And I am personally going to help push this link out because I really want this to go far. I want to see TV series, animated series, live action, whatever we can get. Because right now there is a boom. It's a surging. I mean, Wheel of Time. I can't even read that book because it's such a hard read to stay into in the beginning. I even did an Audible book and I tried my best to stay in it, but the show looks awesome. So I was just like, well, that's a great way to get people involved. Will, you came out with your show. And
shows.
Excuse me, shows. There you go. I love it. How do you keep the ball rolling? You know, it's like, and I'm sorry for jumping on you, Matt, but I mean, I'm just saying.
No, you're good. Listen, I get it.
How do you keep the ball of creativity rolling? This is for both you and Charles. Like, I find myself, I stream like 333 hours, half a month, which is not healthy. But how do you keep your creativity rolling with that? Because there's got to be a standpoint where you do so many of these books, Charles, as well, to where stuff starts colliding together. How do you manage it? Well, you have two.
This is I think, a really good question. And I want Will to answer it first. But Will and I are both known for being extremely prolific creators. Like we are known for working really fast and working in, you know, like I would say we are two of probably the fastest in our respective disciplines in the business, and the quality level is, I would like to say, extremely high. You know. Yes. And so I have my own path to that, but I'm curious as to, you know, Will's answer to it, and I have some senses of it, but I'd like to hear what you say.
Yeah, I've two things on that. One, like the excitement and the creativity. I was actually I was watching the Bob Ross documentary with my wife a couple of weeks ago, and there was one phrase in it that was mentioned when they were talking about Bob, and they said, "Oh, you know, Bob, like whenever he's doing a painting, but his mind is on 3 paintings ahead." And I just turned around, I just saw my wife just staring at me, going, you know, just kind of like that's what happens. I'm always most excited for what's coming up, and I have this like endless desire to get to those things, which I think will always keep the speed going. And it's awful. Like the first season the Storytellers hadn't come out, and I was like, oh my God, I'd love to do this for the trailer of season 3 of Storytellers. It's stupid. Like it's just because the story in your mind will always come out faster than what actually gets down onto that page in front of you. And that's what happens when I'm not drawing. When you're drawing, then like you live within the page, and that's it. I have this process that I've developed that is definitely quite fast, and then like I'll get everything that I need, and then I'll sit down and I'll be working on the page, and I don't think of anything else. And the second I stop, it's something I actually need to dial back on. Like I can't stop my mind kind of going forward in that. And then the second thing is like my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, all the way along, all worked as like fishermen in a small little village here. And like they were out in the middle of like raging storms fishing for their living, you know. And if any of them ever thought that I had a day where I was like, I don't really feel like drawing today, and like the stuff that they had to go through to feed their families, like that, I think that sort of like generational guilt is always there on top of me that will keep me, you know, doing the stuff and never kind of like, because I go to bed excited about drawing the next morning, every morning, you know. I'm so lucky to be doing it. So I think it's the two of those combined.
Nice. Charles?
Yeah. My answer to that is probably a little, I mean, I don't have any fishermen in which is too bad almost. That's a great profession. But there's certainly people who work very hard in my my mind too. Like, but I think ultimately it's something I think I've trained myself to do. You know, like as I said earlier, I'm sort of wobbly today from this COVID booster, which again I'm super happy I got. Urge everybody listening to do that. But I have a script that's due, you know, and we have Thanksgiving here in the States on next Thursday, and I have this script, and then I have another script that I basically have to get turned in, and I don't have to, but I would be letting people down if I didn't. And so you just pull up your socks and you get typing. It doesn't matter how you feel, you just do it. And yeah. I would imagine to a degree that's the same thing with Will. Like, yeah, I mean, you sit down at your tablet and you just draw for 9 hours, and that's just the job. And so you get to a point where, I mean, I'm not going to say it's my best work as it would be if I were fully rested and not, you know, whatever, but the script will be done, you know, and I know that I'll sit down and I'll do it, and it'll be cool, and it'll be professional level, and I can maybe tweak it a little bit if I need to later, but I will get it done. And I think that is just training and like mental muscle memory, and just the fortitude you get from being in this grueling, demanding industry for a long time. Mm-hmm. You just learn how to sort of shortcut it. You learn how to visualize things in your head very quickly, so you don't have to like work through, like, so for this script I'm working on today, right? It's actually it's a Star Wars script. I apologize, Will, it's not hell to pay for, but that is, I promise, it's in the works. So this Star Wars script, like, I'm like, okay, I have to do, it's centered on a gigantic space battle, like one of the biggest I've written, and it's about basically the entire Rebel fleet attacks one Star Destroyer, and it's how the Star Destroyer manages to, like, what they do, how they use what they've got to try to.
Wow! I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's good. It's cool.
Yeah.
But then, you know, so the way that I approach that is I have notebooks that I do all my work in, and I just was like, okay, and I just sort of started running it through quickly in my head, like a movie. And you can you fast forward the action at this point. Okay, that's not going to work. Rewind it. Okay, I could start from the start. Maybe go this way instead. Like just zigging and zagging. And I jot down notes to myself so I remember that mental movie in my head. And so it's really about firming up the movie up here, and then I just type it. And so once I have it typed, because I know these characters so well that I don't have to agonize over what C-3PO is going to say. I just start writing in C-3PO's voice, and it just kind of works. But that is not the way it worked when I started, either in comics or in Star Wars comics. And it's something you just have to train yourself to, just like Will has to learn how to draw R2-D2, has to learn how to draw Kylo Ren, has to learn how to draw Ren, our guy, because you just need to get that going in your head. And I don't know. I just think you just stand up and do it, or you sit down and do it. It's like a focus thing.
Yeah. We just threw something in the Zoom chat. If you guys could take a look first.
I mean, I can ask. How much longer are we allowed to keep you? Because I know you both are busy.
I mean, I was budgeting an hour for this, but I don't think we started right at the hour, did we?
Okay. So, yeah. All right. So
like right now, we're about 10, 15 to an hour right now.
Are we good for 15 after? Which is,
I mean, that's fine with me. We can. I'm good for the full hour. Will, it's later for you there, so.
No, that's fine. That's perfect. Yep.
Oh, you're good for how long? Because we'll keep you.
I don't know, 20 more minutes.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, Will.
Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And Will, by the way, we're gonna talk. Will and Charles. I'm gonna try to do something else for you guys as well. So I'll definitely hit you up and let you know about that. I did the same thing for Scott. So we'll see where we can go with that.
I got a
go for it, man. Yeah. You better cut me off, boy. I'm telling you.
Very good. It's interesting. You said something before, Will, about art and being creative for video games, like Frank said, and I'm always intrigued by that because prior to streaming, I actually worked for a studio in the city that did a lot of outsourcing for video game studios for concept art and 3D models. And the process for every studio that we worked with, developer, whether it's Warner Brothers or Epic, was so different because it's different art directors. You kind of talked about it a little bit, Charles, but the process from initial ideation to, all right, we're good. You kind of talked about what it already looked like, I think, a little bit, Charles, but like, how long does it take? Like, for instance, the main characters above me on the screen for Hell to Pay or Ren, like, how long did it take to work that through, and how many sketches or how many versions did you write down of this character? How long does it take, essentially? Or is it
For me, this was one of the reasons when we were working on The Rise of Kylo Ren that I was like, I really want to do a lot more work with Charles because of the way that we were doing it. And it was very, very much, like the way the industry used to be set up before is like you would, something would be sent by mail and you'd go off and you'd draw it and it would be sent back and you'd kind of, do things a stage at a time. Whereas this was the first time where I felt like I was able to, design a character with a writer, literally live, whether we're sending stuff back and forth via WhatsApp or on calls or whatever it is, doing it, so it just felt a lot more immediate for me getting to work on them. And Ren was a perfect example of that, whereas Charles was kind of almost like the voice that was guiding me drawing as we were doing it. And I kind of draw something and there'd be instant feedback straight away. And he'd explain more of the character. So I would try and capture that and put that on there as well. So it was really, that process is why I knew, even though we wanted to do creative stuff before then, our creator on stuff before then, it was why I really wanted to do Hell to Pay with Charles, because I really enjoyed that side of it. And it was definitely kind of, I think it was like a step forward in the method of, I guess now in the last year or two, obviously, it's easier to hop on Zooms and stuff like that, but that kind of wasn't the way when we were working on The Rise of Kylo Ren. It just wasn't that common to like literally live talk with each other while you're doing stuff, so that side of it really, really helped with it for sure.
Yeah, I think that level of I think the proof is in the pudding, right? With Ren in particular, right? Because that design was put up against designs of Darth Vader and Kylo Ren and other very significant Star Wars designs in that Lego special that just aired. And if the design wouldn't hold up, it wouldn't have been used. And it wasn't just used a little bit. Like Ren's mask was a massively prominent part of that episode. And so that's a testament to Will's design skill. And I think that's a testament to the workshop process that we've been able to develop, which is one of my favorite things about working with Will, is that it is very much like, it sounds a bit like they describe Pixar working in terms of, you work on stuff until it's good. And there's no harm or shame in saying, what if we did another round on this one? Or what if we tweak this? Or what if we try this? I mean, that's some of the earliest stuff you do.
I love it.
Jesus, man.
And
I actually found some other concepts. I found some other concepts here. I don't know if I can show what we didn't use and stuff, but I better not. I better not.
Yeah,
eat it up.
You don't want the mouse knocking on your door, man.
Sitting in your DM.
Man, I bet they'll show up in. They could show up in art books.
In art
like
books,
that. If Ren goes where we want him to go, could really work. Like I'm using Ren now. Ren's a big part of this Crimson Reign story I'm doing for Star Wars now. Like he's a huge central part of that and Hidden Empire, which is what comes after. So, it's nice to be able to take this thing that Will and I did and build it out.
It's canon, right? Canon now.
It's all canon. All of the stuff is canon.
Making sure because they back and forth with that. Okay, great.
I'd be remiss to ask, and I know this is specifically for you, Charles, and I know Kevin and Tim would want me to ask this one too, but man, how did that go being one of the founding fathers, creators, whatever you want to call it, getting the phone call to do what is now the High Republic? How? Well, I know how because of who you are, but how was that? How did it happen?
Well, the way that the High Republic came to be was that it was not initially the High Republic. It was initially a sort of a call from an executive at Lucasfilm, this is well known that he's the guy who was the initiator of all this, named Mike Seglain, and Will knows him pretty well too. And so Mike reached out to me, and it was a day actually when I left another gig. Like I turned down another really big gig at Marvel, and there's Marky and Rill. There we go. From the lead bad guy of the High Republic. So I turned down a gig at Marvel that would have taken up a ton of my time, and I was like, man, how could I, like, the Charles of 5 years ago would be, crying himself to sleep for not doing that gig, but it didn't feel like the right place for me to go. And then literally that day, I met up with Mike Seglain, and he's like, well, I have this, your work in Star Wars has been great. I have this thing where I want to pull together 5 authors who are great at Star Wars, and we want to make this new thing. And at this point, the details were very light because there wasn't anything there yet. It was just like, he wanted to pull these 5 people together who we thought were good at Star Wars, basically, and see what we could come up with as far as a completely blue sky. We're going to make some big new Star Wars. It's going to be part of this huge, massive interconnected thing. So go as big as you can. And then we'll see where it goes. And so, we did that. The first session when we met and started to build the High Republic was at Skywalker Ranch. And so we didn't know who the other people were. I didn't know who the other 4 were. And I had some theories and all that stuff. But basically we flew out, and I met those 4 people who are obviously, Justina Ireland, Claudia Gray, Daniel Jose Older, and Kevin Scott. I met them in Northern California that first day. And those are people who I now speak to every day, who I've become extraordinarily close with. We all were kind of like a second mini family for each other during the pandemic. There was a ton of that conversation going on. And, it still blows my mind because we went into that first meeting at Skywalker Ranch, and they said, okay, what do you think Star Wars is? And so we spent the first day talking about what we all thought Star Wars was. And then we spent the second day talking about what we thought it could be. And
right at the good part. Oh, there it is.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah.
That was Lucas like, oh, yeah. We lost you for a second. That is so incredible. I'm trying to contain myself and be professional, but I really want to scream like a little. I mean, I got Will, one of my favorite artists here, and then you're a legend in Star Wars, and everyone knows how big in lore I am, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. Wow. Thank you for coming today, by the way. I just want to say that again.
Thank you very much.
Because this is you're the knowledge. You're making me want to go back into the comm business. I know I can't. Back for Hell Debate, I have a question. So it's very interesting to me that you chose a husband and a wife for the main characters. You don't see that quite often at all. What was the creative process behind this? And husband and wives, typically when they're around each other all the time, to bump heads a good bit. Is there any of that realism involved in the comic where they, I don't know, don't go with each other's decisions sometimes?
I mean, Will, you're as into this as I am. If you want to go first, I just spoke a lot about Star Wars.
Okay, and I want to know which one is your favorite.
Oh, well, I've learned that drawing curly hair takes a long time, so Sebastian needs to come in with Will just because of that. So my easier to draw is Sebastian, definitely. Well, this is the thing when you're telling these stories, is that like you have this big high concept thing, but it's really important to have something that's relatable at the core of it all as well, which is why it's built around first and foremost this struggle between, or the story that the two are struggling with together. So yeah.
All right.
My thinking between making it a married couple is that I think that we just have not seen that dynamic very much, and it's a very powerful thing. Once you get to a certain age in your life, basically everybody is married, and which is fine. I'm not saying that's a good thing, right? But yet we see marriages represented so rarely in because people, storytelling people like to think it's all about the chase and all that stuff, and all about the those first flares of romance and whatever. But I think there's there's a lot of exciting stuff to be done with the idea of a strong marriage that goes through struggles and goes through drama and all that stuff. I mean, the way that this story works is basically Sebastian and Maya have been told by the Shrouded College that they cannot have children at all until they finish their job, until they pay off their debt, basically. And so they really want to get out of this because they want to move on and have like a normal life. And so that to me is a very dramatic situation, like a married couple that wants to be something other than they're being allowed to be. They're basically, they're indentured servants. And so that's cool. And I think, I don't know. I think the way that the story goes really, really builds up, the drama between the fact that these are people who love each other very much. Like there's a lot to be said for people who have been through a ton and rely on each other and trust each other. Yeah, there's a great one that Will's showing.
Oh man.
I love that shot.
And what that means to them, what it means to them to sacrifice, what it means to them to do things. And it's, I don't know, I love that choice. It's one of my favorite things about the whole book is that they're a married couple. And I hope you guys agree when you read it.
Real quick to tag on. I love this. They're interracial relationship.
Yeah. Yep.
I love that. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Representation is such a huge thing that we're kind of struggling with right now. I mean, granted, it's happening, but some people really feel that they just kind of meet quotas and throw things in there to just try to make it equal and even and stuff. But I love the care that you put in both of these characters, and I can't wait to read it to see even the relationship between the two. Will,
it was also very important for me for this Irish character not to have ginger hair and sound like a leprechaun, which is what usually happens to Irish people in media.
That's why I don't do my Irish voiceovers and when you're around. I don't sound like a leprechaun.
I'm kidding.
I asked you for that, right? Well, I asked you for like the Irish pass, didn't I? Because
absolutely. Yeah. You have to have been here to have made an Irish character. I'm joking.
No, I think that's really, really nice that you put that in there. And even if, hey, I'll even go to say, don't even feel afraid to show the struggles of that, because Miles Morales is like one of my favorite characters ever created. Thanks to Sarah Patelli and Ryan Bendis. They passed that book on, and I think Saladin picked it up. And the difference I've seen with Saladin's writing and everything and how that character was represented is he did some good research on the way kids would act his age or say, or the way of dress for the design that was going through. This is supernatural and everything. Are there any real world issues that are being forced onto them on top of the fact of having supernatural stuff happening?
There are, and well, I'm going to speak to this if you don't mind. But the overarching theme of this book is capitalism and how shitty it can be and how it can burn people to the ground. I mean, you got fire there in the background on that shot that Will's showing, but like the idea that money and the pursuit of money and the power of money and how pervasive it's become, it's no accident that they're looking for money from hell, and money is the root of all evil and all this stuff.
Yes,
so the idea, like the decisions we all make in our lives are so tied to, I mean, all of us, no matter where we are, no matter what our circumstances, no matter if we got 2 TV shows going or not, Will. But
I love how you guys go back and forth. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But like, how am I going to pay for healthcare? And that's an issue that is significant in the United States in a way that perhaps it isn't as much in Europe and Ireland. But how am I going to am I ever going to be able to retire? Am I how many side hustles do I have to make my make my number? How am I going to pay for my kids' school? How am I going to do this? Like those preoccupations are essential. Like I think they are like, will I ever be able to buy a house? Like this stuff. These are the questions that occupy so many of our decisions all the time, constantly. And that's because money has become, this, like there are no safety nets, and you have to do it all for yourself all the time. And you have to make good plans. You have to be lucky. And I don't think it's great, right? I think that it chews people up and spits people out almost no matter what your level is. And so the book addressing these things, I think is really what the main real world issue of what we're talking about here is that.
Wow. Right before, I'm just going to ask if they would do this. would you be willing, when this ships, would you be willing to come back and for another interview while the book is out so we can see it live?
Yeah,
in our hands?
Of course.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, just want to lock that in. All right, go for it.
Yeah, I know we're coming up on time here, so I just have one more question. Well, I guess two. Well, the first one's really easy. Do you have a picture of what one of the coin looks like a more in-depth? Yes. I personally would just love to see it. And I'm sure the audience will as well. So you have 4 pages worth drawn. You have 3 scripts, working on the 4th. It's still ETA 2022. When it comes out, is there what can you talk about as far as the plan is releasing these? Like, is it going to be like a monthly thing? How do you foresee it once it comes out and it's in the public's hands? That is cool.
Yeah, it'll come out monthly. There you go. So that's what the coin looks like. That's the the face side, the head, I guess, obviously, and then there's a tail. That's cool too. And that's another good example. That's like Ren. Like Will and I went back and forth on what this coin should look like through many iterations of revision, and we landed in a place that we're both excited about. So,
wink, wink, smile, smile. I'd love to have one of those.
We've been thinking about that. It would be
edition.
really cool to mint a coin. We'll see. Yeah.
Put on the front of the art book.
Either that or like a crypto coin. We're throwing around a lot of ideas, but basically it'll release monthly starting probably in April or May from Image Comics. We'll obviously be doing a big, huge promotional run for it when we get closer to release. We talked about like, what if we had a contest and we hid like a box of coins? You know, we had like gold coins. Put some, maybe not gold, whatever, quarter.
yeah.
Put a box of nickels.
I'd love to do something like that.
That's cool.
And have people go crazy trying to find the coins around the world. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Digital and hard copy, or just hard copy?
The book's release. Oh, they'll be digital as well. Yeah. I think pretty much every Image comic will be is always digital.
Just making sure. Some people, Yeah. Awesome.
So that's awesome. Give or take April or May, you're going to be coming out on a monthly target with it. And I mean, as of right now, like you said, Will, first comic is about 40 pages. You said, how does it go right now?
It's 30, isn't it? Is it?
Oh, I'm sorry. 30. Yeah. I thought you said 40.
The top of my head. Yeah. Which is basically an issue and a half. And the regular, like a Marvel issue, or shall we say, they used to be 22. They're 20 now. So
it'll be great. We're really excited, and hopefully, we're already starting to develop some of the other stories in the universe. So those will hopefully start to follow on a pretty regular basis after, and in all different mediums. So I'm a prose writer too. So I'm going to be doing some prose. Will is working on a story that he's going to write, he's going to write blog himself, which is cool. We're going to do short stories, longer bits, and other comics too. So the idea is to build out this whole, how like Hellboy has BPRD and Lobster Johnson, all those different titles within it. We want to do something similar with Shrouded College. Sick. So it's ambitious, but that's who we are. That's how we roll.
And with Image, you have this opportunity to do that, which is fantastic.
Freedom to do.
Yeah.
We had a question from the chat. Lago says, I see the curse words. The whole damn thing is sold out. Will there be any reprints? Yes.
So actually, there will be. What we're doing is we did the first anthology that Will has, or omnibus that Will has a copy of through Kickstarter. But Image Comics has graciously agreed to do a reprint of it through them. So there will be a version of that same hardcover. There you go, beautiful, coming out through Image Comics in I believe May, alongside the April or May, also alongside both Hell to Pay and the next book I'm doing with Ryan Brown, which we're going to be announcing at C2E2 in Chicago in, 3 weeks, which is everything's happening very quickly now. All of a sudden the pandemic's over, but it should be great.
Well, we can't keep you any longer because we would, but we may see them back. We will see them back later on, everybody. Tell your friends and everyone. This was all thrown together pretty fast, and they agreed really fast, and knowing that they're extremely busy. We do thank you for that, and this will be podcasted all over the place, pretty much everywhere, and we'll get you guys links and stuff to make sure that you see that. And chat, also, You'll have links to Pay Attention to Rare Drop channel Twitter, and the Commix Twitter, and my Twitter, and Nighthawk Plays Twitter. Before you go, we'll start with Will. If you want to give a shout out to where everyone can find you and your work and anything that you want to promote, and I'll throw the link in the chat again. So, well, I guess since we're on Twitch, I have my own Twitch channel, which is where, like, whenever I'm drawing pages from this, I'll pop on and I'll show some of the process of it, which has been really fun as well. And Rochelle, the colorist, has been on here as well to color some pages from it. So there, and I guess Twitter and Instagram, and I've got quite a rare name, so I'm easy to find with those. I'll post that in there. Okay.
And then I am also very active on Twitter. Mine is just my name, Charles Soule, which I guess is somewhat not as weird as Will's, but it's pretty weird. And I have a website where you can get lots of information about what I do and order things from me and so on, which is charlessoule.com. I think you'll see it at the start of that link that's been showing up in the chat. And then at charlessoule.com, you can sign up for a monthly newsletter that I send out. And that is also a good way to get to see things early from me,
Nice.
Get sneak peeks, get a chance to get exclusive stuff. And it's just once a month, so it doesn't clog your inbox up.
All right. Well, one more quick question, because I do have 3 minutes left. Are you ever willing to do, because and this is Scott Snyder, you can blame him for this one. He teaches classes. Anything in the future, are you thinking about doing like your own type of master class? I do like the idea that he takes on his own beast. Is that in the future? Because I would love to attend. I'm just saying.
I mean, Will does it. That's his show.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah.
So, as far as me, I mean, I keep hoping that Will is going to invite me on the show and fly me over to Ireland. Hasn't happened yet. I don't understand. I don't know what possible reason there could be that I haven't been invited to England or Ireland.
Because you said England there, that's why. That's the booster shot.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think I love process. I love teaching. I love sort of talking through the stuff that I do. So I think that'd be really fun. And Will and I do have a pretty unique approach that I don't think is not like I work with any other comic artists I work with. So, sometime I thought that'd be fun. Maybe we'll do like a short series of like, here's how we make things together.
That'd be really cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, wrap it up, Matt.
Yeah, we're at the end here. Obviously, we have Hell to play. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience to check out, or that you're excited for, that you're working on over the next couple of months?
Sure. I'm working on a Star Wars book as well at the moment, called Star Wars: The Halcyon Legacy, which is cool. So I'm a good bit ahead on that, which is awesome. So that'll be coming out soon. It's linked to the Galactic Star Cruiser, and it's from the same team who we worked on Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So it's all tied into the theme park there. And I have I'm appearing on a Christmas special on Sky pretty soon, which is my first ever. I guess I'm kind of acting, but I can't say any more about it. But that's going to come out in December, which is I'm quite excited about. Awesome. That. It's going to be one for the kids, definitely. So
that's amazing. Well, amazing. So on my side, on the Star Wars side, I have I'm still writing the Star Wars flagship, which is going through a big event right now called Crimson Reign, which is tied to the return of Kira and Crimson Dawn. It follows up War of the Bounty Hunters, which is a big Boba Fett story that just finished. So I believe the collection War of the Bounty Hunters is out like any minute, and then Crimson Reign starts the second week of December. So that'll just keep going. That's all very exciting and huge. In the High Republic, my next thing is a story that tells the origin story of Marky and Ro. I get to tell villains' origin stories in Star Wars.
Oh, that's awesome!
So that comes out in January and February. It's called Eye of the Storm. It's super cool. On my own side of things, or actually, there's one more Star Wars thing, which is funny. Will mentioned the Galactic Star Cruiser. I am actually, along with my fellow Luminous authors, I am a prize connected to the Star Cruiser, which is wild.
Wow.
They're giving away the preview weekend or something. Their Star Wars is, I don't know if they're raffling off or sweepstaking. They're doing a sweepstakes basically for a person and a guest to come be a passenger on the maiden voyage of the Star Cruiser in February. And as part of that, you get to meet me and the other Luminous High Republic authors.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's also weird. It is very weird to be thought of as meeting me as some kind of wonderful thing. It's, I think it's kind of how Will feels about the holiday special a little bit. It's a little weird. But anyway, so you can look that up at StarWars.com. And then on my own side of things, I have my series Undiscovered Country is continuing from Image. There's lots of collections of stuff that I have that are starting to drop now, big omnibuses of like Vader and Daredevil and things. So check all that stuff out. And there's a lot. I have a lot going on. I always kind of do. But certainly Hell to Pay and the new book with Ryan Brown are very exciting for me too.
When you love something, right? It's not work. It's fun.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. Seems to be the case.
Well, we're going to go ahead and let you two get back to what you do best. And we will be watching and clicking links and sending links out left and right. Again, thank you so very much, Will and Charles, for spending time with us today. You guys are both legends in the industry. And I marvel at everything. It's just a pleasure to get to know you, Charles, and it's a pleasure to know you, Will, as a friend as well. And that's it, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Comics episode 25. And if you're listening out there, make sure you do hit the links and come by the channel and do drop a follow, and also follow these gentlemen as they create in the world that we love. Well, that's it. Have a good day, and we'll check you all later. Take it easy.
Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.